A warm welcome to this talk. We're going to be playing part of the Westminster Hall debate conducted today, Monday the 18th of December, e-petition 635904 that many of you signed, asking for a parliamentary debate relating to the International Health Regulations 2005. Now, this is the contribution of Mr. Philip Davis, Member of Parliament for Shipley, West Yorkshire. There's some strange stuff going on here, so please do take the time to listen to Mr. Davis.
Philip Davis.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure, as always, to serve under your chairmanship, Dame Maria. I'm really grateful to the Honourable Member for Lancaster and Fleetwood for moving the motion and also for agreeing to the debate in her role chairing the Petitions Committee. It's very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank the 116,391 people who signed this petition, including 189 of my Shipley constituents, which helped to secure this important debate today. Now, in preparing for today's debate, and the Honourable Member mentioned this in her opening remarks, I look back at the contributions heard in April when another petition on this topic was debated here in Westminster Hall. I have to say I was disappointed by some of the rhetoric there when valid concerns were dismissed as an overreaction and hysteria. It's clear that, that this is, quite rightly in my opinion, an important issue for the public, and we can see that that's the case not just from the full gallery today, but also the large numbers signing these petitions. So what are we dealing with here? We have two international legal instruments, both designed to increase the WHO's authority in managing health emergencies. The first concerns the amendments to the existing 2005 International Health Regulations, the IHR, and the second is the World Health Organization's new pandemic treaty, which would support the bureaucracy and financing of the expanded IHR. Both of these instruments are designed to transfer decision-making powers to the World Health Organization, with the admirable aim, no doubt, of improving how the world prevents and better prepares for disease outbreaks. But in practice, what is being proposed could have a huge and detrimental impact on all parts of society and also on our sovereignty. If the IHR amendments go through, then countries will have undertaken to follow recommendations, not merely consider them, with the proposal to remove the words non-binding from Article 1. While in Article 42, the regulations are to be initiated and completed without delay by Member States. Therefore, we can only assume that the intention behind these amendments is for them to be binding under international law. Now, I don't wish to over-egg the nature of these proposals, but I can't help but be concerned by the thought of removing the words non-binding. There is much that would suspend fundamental human and bioethical rights in the existing IHR, such as requirements for vaccinations, medical examinations, and implementing quarantine or other health measures for suspect persons. In other words, mandates and lockdowns. It's all there in black and white under Article 18. I think we may have become only too mindful of the harms of lockdowns, and I'm sure members will be aware of the latest findings published by the Centre for Social Justice about the harms caused by lockdowns, not to mention the non-existent science used to enforce wearing a face mask, which the COVID inquiry has also uncovered the fact that that was based on absolutely no science whatsoever. Going back to the debate in April, we were told by the then Minister that this is simply not the case, that the instrument will undermine UK sovereignty and give the World Health Organization powers over national public health measures. I really think it's worth revisiting this because I'm really not clear how national and parliamentary sovereignty can be upheld if these proposals are agreed. I would draw attention to the draft new Article 13A, which calls for Member States to undertake to follow World Health Organization recommendations and recognise the World Health Organization not as an organisation under the control of countries, but rather as the coordinating authority of international public health response during public health emergency of international concern. Of course I'll give way.
Does my honourable friend share my concern about the lack of accountability? We're having a very extensive and very public examination of the response of the government here to COVID, but there is no comparable examination of the very important decisions and advice that the WHO offered to the whole world and probably had more influence.
Well, my right honourable friend is, as ever, absolutely right, and we should all be concerned. We should all be concerned about that, and we should be concerned that we don't end up fall into the same problems as we've had in the past and being in a position where there's nothing we can do about it. We're sleepwalking into a disaster. We're talking about a top-down approach to global public health, hardwired into international law. And at the top of this top-down approach, you have our single source of truth for all things pandemic, the World Health Organization's Director General, who it appears will have the sole authority to decide when and where these regulations would be deployed. And let's not forget, of course, that the Director General is appointed by an opaque, non-democratic process, and I think that's being rather generous about the process in which the Director General is appointed. Rather worryingly, in the response to this petition, the government has said that they are supporting the process of agreeing targeted amendments of the IHR as a means of strengthening preparedness for and response to future health emergencies, including through increasing compliance and implementation of the IHR. They've also previously said that they support a new international legally binding instrument. It certainly sounds like a threat to parliamentary sovereignty to me, and I would like the Minister to commit today to laying these plans before Parliament so they can be properly debated and, if I had my way, robustly rejected. I think it's also vital to take a step back and understand what's driving this pandemic preparedness agenda. At a recent meeting of the APPG on pandemic response and recovery, Dr. David Bell gave a briefing on how the World Health Organization, with the backing of the World Bank, say these amendments are the only way to prepare for future pandemics, which it says are getting more frequent and there's more risk from zoonotic or animal to human spread. But the reality is their figures don't tell the whole story. When you actually take into account population growth, significant natural pandemics are rare events. You also have to take into account the fact that there's been a huge expansion of tests and genome sequencing over the last few decades. The invention of PCR testing, for example, has had a massive impact on the detection rate of these outbreaks the World Health Organization are now using to justify their agenda. Since the Spanish flu over 100 years ago, we've only had 2 pandemics above the average yearly seasonal influenza mortality rates. This is thanks to antibiotics and advances in modern medical care. We seem to hear a lot about disease outbreaks which actually have low mortality burdens when compared to other public health threats. As an example, SARS-1 in 2003 had the equivalent disease burden of about 5 hours of tuberculosis. Funnily enough, the World Health Organization themselves could find no evidence either that serious zoonotic pandemics were increasing in their 2019 pandemic influenza recommendations. What is undoubtedly increasing is the eye-watering cost of managing pandemics, with vast sums of taxpayer money being wasted on poorly conceived initiatives such as locking down the economy for 2 years. It seems to me that the World Health Organization has no need to rush any of this. We have time to reassess and get it right. And it seems I'm not the only one to think this. We've seen in recent weeks signs that some countries, including Estonia, Slovakia and New Zealand, are looking to question the proposals. It's not clear if any member states have submitted formal notices to reject and opt out, but New Zealand does appear to have lodged a reservation to allow the incoming government more time to consider whether the amendments are consistent with a national interest test required by New Zealand law. This is entirely sensible, and I would like to see our own government take a pause to apply some critical thinking to this situation before blindly supporting the World Health Organization's installation as our new global public health power. It's absolutely essential, Dame Maria, that the government makes a clear and unambiguous promise that it will neither support nor abide by anything which in any way undermines our national sovereignty. We have not spent so many years battling to get out of the frying pan of the EU to jump straight back into the fire with the equally unaccountable and undemocratic and hopeless World Health Organization.